Man-Spider. Spider-Man, but he's a humanoid giant freaking spider. This concept is scary as hell. Peter Parker losing control of his brain and mutating into a full-fledged giant spider? Gosh, that's horrifying. It's been done differently depending upon the media it shows up in, but there is a constant about Man-Spider, and there's only one constant I've noticed about Man-Spider. He is horrifying. He's so horrifying, man. This character is so scary. And he also still donning the Spider-Man costume while he's Man-Spider. And it only adds to the look, the mystique of it all. You got like criminals like, oh my God, Spider-Man just spidered out. We're fucking cooked, man. It's over. Like, that's exactly how I would be feeling if this Man-Spider was chasing me through the streets. I would figure he's about to eat my brains. Because it's Halloween season, everybody, I wanted to make some more scary horror-sided videos for Spider-Man. And what more scary horror-sided videos for Spider-Man could we get than Man-Spider himself? Look no further than the giant Man-Spider. This thing, it's scary, man. It's so scary, so it's perfect for what we're doing here. Look at the design, guys. Man-Spider first appears in the comics, and we're definitely going to talk about his first comic book appearance. We're also going to talk about his adaptations as well, and we'll show off some other designs he's had in the comics too. But before we do jump into this video, I need to know what each and every single one of you guys thinks of Man-Spider himself. What are your thoughts on him? Have you read the comics that he appears in? Did you see the shows he's adapted in? That 90s show is just peak. That is like one of the greatest storylines ever. So please let me know down below what you think of Man-Spider. What do you guys think of the guy? Without further ado though, I'm gonna jump into this video. Let's talk about Man-Spider and his initial comic book story. Now, oddly enough, Man-Spider doesn't originally appear in Amazing Spider-Man or Spectacular Spider-Man, or he doesn't actually appear in any Spider-Man titled comic book. At least his first appearance isn't. His first comic book appearance comes from Marvel Fanfare #2. It's a team-up book. And in this specific team-up story, you get Peter Parker in the Savage Land teaming up with Kazar. Very, very odd team-up, honestly, but we'll work with it. Kazar's cool. While they're there, they get ambushed and Peter's captured. He's captured by a man known as Brainchild, who uses a machine to mutate people into their primal versions of themselves. Due to Spider-Man having spider DNA, you guessed it, that turns Spider-Man into a giant Man-Spider. Jesus Christ! It's the first time he ever showed up, and man, was he horrifying. The story continues on, and Kazar's trying to save Peter, but an all-out fight breaks out. Peter's still having some semblance of his brain, you know, some of those neurons are firing. He takes his captors, and he throws them into the machine, breaking it, thus leaving Spider-Man trapped as Man-Spider forever. In this moment, Spider-Man immediately hits rock bottom. He starts thinking about how quickly his conscience is fleeting, and the spider brain, it's taken over. So what does Spider-Man do in his final moments of having some semblance of a brain? He begs Kazar to kill him before it's too late, and he can't be controlled anymore, and he can't be stopped. Not gonna lie, this is some pretty compelling writing. Like, the drama here, it's so dramaful. It's crazy. And honestly, thankfully, Kazar doesn't need to kill Man-Spider because Sauron actually swoops in and steals Man-Spider's life force, thus turning him back into Peter Parker. But man, this story was so good. The story was created by Chris Claremont and Michael Golden, and honestly, fire. The writing is really compelling like I talked about. Have you ever read a Spider-Man comic where Spider-Man himself was begging to be killed because he didn't want to hurt others? That's fucking dark, but that's also pretty fucking compelling. Pretty good. The artwork, though, we can't move on without talking about the artwork. Michael Golden, he did his goddamn thing on this project. Every little detail in this book looks so good. As you're looking at the artwork, it looks a little bit rugged, a little bit rough, and it really adds to the story. It really adds to the fear factor and the horror factor of Man-Spider. But also, you need to look closer because it's really detailed in design. Like, you'll see a lot of stuff in the background you may not have noticed, and it's really well done. Look at the cover, for instance. It just looks like Man-Spider and then a Kazar and the woman. I can't even remember her name right now. I'm tripping. Honestly, I'm sorry. But the three of them are on the cover. And then you look in the background, and it just looks like it's like random lines, right? But if you look closely, it actually is that Brainchild guy. Like, the detail in this guy's work is insane. You can even look at Man-Spider in some of these pages. It's like, you know, that doesn't really look like Man-Spider. And then you look closer, you're like, holy shit, that actually looks way better than I could have ever imagined this looking. This looks phenomenal. So the artwork also deserves like an immense amount of praise in this story because, man, both Golden and Claremont did their things. All-time writing and artist combo right there, honestly. But even before you get a moment that's so compelling, like Peter saying he needs to be murdered, kill me before I hurt anybody else, you get other stoic, beautiful moments, art and writing combined. Like, at one point, this moment, it's like, on the sidelines, Man-Spider waits. A nigh irresistible lust for battle, for blood, eats away at his soul like a cancer. God damn! Claremont, you was going in! You was cooking! This is straight up fire writing! And like I said, the artwork only helps to complement it so freaking well. It not being clean cut and more gritty is just the best thing possible. Honestly, this story fucking bangs. You get Man-Spider for the first time, and he's scary. Like, Peter Parker gets abducted, and the next time you see him, he's a giant spider in a Spider-Man costume. Holy shit! That's terrifying! And then as Peter feels for the transformation becoming more and more permanent, he becomes more and more desperate to die. It's like, goddamn, that story is sad and scary. It's the double. I will say, though, it just feels a bit not Spider-Man-like. That's the only thing about the story I will say. It's incredibly well written. Like, scarily well written, and it's an incredibly compelling story, and the artwork is just otherworldly. But when I think of Spider-Man, you all know what I think of. I think of New York City. When I think of Spider-Man, I think of his supporting cast, like Mary Jane, Harry Osborn, and all these goobers. When I think of Spider-Man, I think of his villains, like Green Goblin, or Lizard, or Doc Ock. And, well, none of those things are actually prevalent in the story at all. None. The villain of the story is that brainchild guy and Sauron, I guess. The supporting cast is Kazar and his love interest, and I guess his tiger. And it doesn't take place in New York. It takes place in the Savage Lands. So, although I do think it's a banger story, it's a fucking 10 out of 10 story, and I did love it, I will say, I actually do prefer the 90s adaptation more because it feels more in line with telling a Spider-Man story, rather having Spider-Man just in a story and seeing what happens to him. Before we do jump into the 90s show, I just want to really quickly show off a bunch of the Man-Spider looks over the years in the comics, because he's appeared other times, you know, in other circumstances, like during the 2002 Shothrop area run. He had like the Savage Spider-Man run for a little bit as well. So just want to put some of those up on the screen, and I want you guys to let me know what you think of these, because the more Man-Spider, in my opinion, the better. So take a look. Let me know what you think. All right, now that we showed off some of his designs in the comics, and they vary a bit, we gotta talk about what I would say is the best adaptation of the character. It is the 90s Spider-Man show. To me, this is by far and away the best Man-Spider story. It's also the only one that actually gives the story the dramatic respect it deserves, in my opinion. For reference, we talked about the comic. In that comic, it's literally an issue. Spider-Man is Man-Spider for less than the issue, right? Because he starts off as Peter Parker and he ends as Peter Parker. So it's less than one issue is Spider-Man Man-Spider. Man-Spider actually gets adapted in Ultimate Spider-Man as well, but Man-Spider shows up in Ultimate Spider-Man for all of maybe 6 minutes. Maybe 6 minutes. And then Man-Spider also gets adapted in Spider-Man Unlimited, but in Spider-Man Unlimited, he shows up for maybe 6 seconds. Like, maybe 6 seconds, maybe 60 seconds, but none of these iterations of the story are truly an extensive story showing the problems of Spider-Man becoming Man-Spider in a long-term story. They're either a quick, more shocking story, a nice homage, or it's just for fun. The 90s show, however, this is the only one that's like a real Man-Spider story that we're going to talk about today, in my opinion. And it's just so good. It treats it as if it's a crucial piece of lore in Spider-Man's media. In the 90s show, Man-Spider isn't just like shock value or anything like that. He serves a narrative purpose, and he's just straight up horrifying. In the show, Spider-Man's mutation continues to mutate. He first loses his powers temporarily before the inverse happens, and the mutates just start mutating, and you won't believe what happens to him. He's a man with 6 arms now. He's a 6-armed Spider-Man, so technically 8 limbs if you think about it. He's got 2 feet. He already looks terrible. He looks hideous, and he already has to stand up Mary Jane. He can't see her because he has all these extra arms. He can't, be out and about. So this has already taken an effect on his life, and it also still feels Spider-Man, right? There's a very weird thing about Spider-Man comics where it doesn't feel very Spider, you know? It's almost like they did that. It's an afterthought that it's Spider-Man. Versus a lot of his villains, that's not even close. Like the Lizard, that's definitely a fucking lizard. The Rhino is definitely a fucking rhino. Spider-Man, a lot of the times I feel like they're afraid to dive into the spider because arachnophobia is just such a prevalent thing in our society. This actually did happen in the comics as well, briefly. Spider-Man does get the extra arms, and it just feels natural, right? It just feels like this should be happening. Spider-Man was bit by a spider. He gets the powers of a spider, but then no repercussions. He doesn't continue. Like, I don't know. I just prefer this. I like that it continues to keep going. And we're going to keep going. Because as the story continues, Spider-Man still tries to do his Spider-Man duties. Like he's trying to take down Morbius, he's trying to bring him in and whatnot, and then Punisher's trying to fight him and he's trying to fight him off. Then the mutation worsens. The mutation comes to its head, and we get the best appearance of Man-Spider ever. Do you see this monster? Holy shit, it's scary. Man-Spider, oh my god, you are just the goat. I love you. Operating only on instinct, Man-Spider continues to hunt down Morbius and also fight off Punisher along the way. And man, he's doing a great job at both. He just can't be stopped. His spider brain is still so smart. Man-Spider also runs into Harry and MJ, and I love this scene as well. The way you could see how Man-Spider is staring, you could see through all the different eyes as he looks at them. Oh, so creepy. And he just shoves Harry's bitch ass to the floor. One palm, bam, on the floor. But you know what? He takes one look at his beautiful love of his life, Mary Jane, and that little pea spider brain with 6 neurons left. It knew it had to chill and take off and run because Mary Jane is the one. The story then comes to a head when Kraven shows up and both Kraven and Punisher work together to stop Man-Spider and bring him back into being Peter Parker. This arc in this show is just so good. It just feels like it belongs in Spider-Man's mythos naturally. Dude is bitten by a radioactive spider, and at some point, the mutation keeps going and becomes a giant man-spider until he's cured. To me, this makes sense. I don't know why it doesn't make sense for more people or why it's not done more, but I think it just makes sense in Spider-Man's story. I'd even go as far as to say it makes way more sense in a Spider-Man storyline than the symbiote. A completely alien goo coming from a foreign planet that nobody knows of, and it just takes over somebody's body, and the alien goo that's taking over somebody's body actually doesn't do it maliciously. It doesn't do it with any malintent. It does it just because it wants to survive. And while it's doing so, it learns to be a good guy. While learning to be a good guy, it gets scorned and goes to somebody else learning to be evil, trying to take down that good guy. And then the two of them end up being good guys together. That's convoluted. And what does that have to do with spiders? Or we could look at a spider, got radioactive, bit a man, he got stronger like a spider, and then became a giant spider. To me, that just makes sense. It seems streamlined, and it seems like it makes more sense. That's not me hating on the symbiote storyline, obviously. Everybody who watches this channel knows Venom's one of my all-time favorite characters. Carnage is my favorite Spider-Man villain. I love the symbiotes. I'm just saying, I think Man-Spider storyline actually makes sense in a Spider-Man story more so than most Spider-Man stories we actually get. And just to praise the 90s show specifically, on both the symbiote and Man-Spider, I think it's really important. It deserves a round of applause. It changed the game for both of these storylines, in my opinion. The symbiote from this point on was never the same in stories. They're like, yo, we got to give this guy or the symbiote some anger. It makes Peter angry. It makes him mad. And that's really, honestly, they've never looked back in any adaptation since then. It always does this. And then Man-Spider as well. Man-Spider actually gets way more stories after the 90s show were to come out than prior to this. Marvel Fanfare, I believe, came out in the 80s. He would not, to my knowledge, would not get another appearance until after the 90s show. So I just want to give the 90s show some credit, because not only did it make the symbiote Spider-Man storyline and Man-Spider Spider-Man storyline feel real, it feel like it matters, but it did it in a way that it made it so that other people were inspired to use these storylines. So massive credit to the 90s show and how it did Man-Spider in specific and the symbiote storyline. Just peak. Shout outs to fucking Man-Spider, man. I just love how extensive it is. We get multiple episodes of Peter going through this turmoil. It's not just one quick episode of Man-Spider, he's gone. It's no. Peter's got the 6 arms. He's trying to fight off the 6 arms. He's got the mutation pain. He's trying to fight off the mutation pain. Originally, he doesn't even have a mutation. He loses powers. Peter has to fight the Sinister Six with no powers. This is all one big arc, and I love it. I love that we actually get this in a real story form. It feels great, personally. So, shout out to the 90s show. Well, let's continue on. Okay? Man-Spider does show up, but actually in the very next show, in Spider-Man Unlimited. Very, very briefly, like I talked about before. The High Evolutionary is let me turn you into a giant spider, since I've been able to make these animals into giant animals, and they roll over this other Earth. And then briefly, Spider-Man turns into a man-spider before he reverts the change. And there's really not much more to say about it, so that's all I can really say. We could talk about the look. The look of it's really creepy, really creepy. I don't know if it hits the same as the 90s version, but it's definitely still scary. And then the last adaptation that I know of we could talk about is Man-Spider shows up in Ultimate Spider-Man as well. Only, in this show, Man-Spider is not nearly as serious as a storyline as it is in the 90s show. In the Ultimate Spider-Man show, Spider-Man and Wolverine are looking for Kazar in the Savage Lands, but so is Taskmaster and Kraven. After Spider-Man finds Kazar, he takes a dart from Kraven that makes him into Man-Spider. In the 90s show, this is a multiple episode long saga that plagues Peter's mental state and life for that period of time. In the Ultimate show, it's like a 6-minute gag. Kazar and Wolverine fight Man-Spider and they both get beat. Then Man-Spider runs off and he like fights a T-Rex. Okay. All right then. Then Wolverine and Kazar decide that they have to help Spider-Man or Man-Spider. They got to give him an antidote, which apparently is like a skunk. They shove the skunk in Man-Spider's face and boom. Man-Spider's no more. We're back to Peter Parker. This story is way more lighthearted than the previous shows we just talked about, or at least the previous story I talked about. Even Spider-Man Unlimited was pretty, honestly, it was darker than this one, even if it was quicker. In Marvel fanfare, the story is very creepy. Like, without question, it's very creepy. In the 90s show, it's very creepy, and in Spider-Man Unlimited, it looks creepy. In this show, I don't even think Man-Spider looks creepy. I think he looks like a cartoonified kid version of what Man-Spider could be, which is fine. It's a kid show. But, like, the other shows didn't do this. The other shows just gave us a horrifying nightmare fuel. Nightmare, nightmare, nightmare. There is one thing about this show that it's a joke too, but I do have to talk about it because I do think it highlights something I think a lot of people don't talk about. And this is a little bit of an aside, but I'm a big believer in no organic webbing. I hate organic webbing. I think it's really stupid. And people are like, I love organic webbing because it shows that Spider-Man's a spider. It's like, okay, cool. But then shouldn't he be shooting it out of his butt? Like, make it make sense to me. I'm serious. I really do think that. I'm not an organic Spider-Man or an organic webbing guy. So if you are an organic webbing guy, you got to riddle me that. Why is he not shooting it out of his butt? I just want to know. Well, in this show, Man-Spider actually does shoot webs out of his butt. I think it's goofy and it's really dumb, but it's like, hey, they actually took me up on my offer, and I guess I just got to hold this because they really did do it, and it does look stupid. And this is why I don't like it. So, no organic webbing for me, but I do will say at least it's funny that they did this. Personally, I just think Man-Spider's a really cool way to turn Spider-Man into a horror character. In the same vein, though, I have heard that Marvel is afraid of people associating arachnophobia with Spider-Man, and just like generally liking him less because of it. It sounds dumb, but executives have really stupid views all the time. Seriously, this actually is a rumor to have happened that Man-Spider shouldn't show up as much due to the fact that kids are scared of spiders and Marvel didn't want to ruin their likingness for Man-Spider. For example, Man-Spider was actually apparently supposed to appear in Far From Home during the dream sequence with Mysterio, or the illusion sequence, I should say, and he didn't. The only reason he didn't, apparently, is because the Marvel executives were really afraid that people in the theaters would be really afraid of the Spider-Man or Man-Spider, and they wouldn't want to see him anymore. It's egregious in my opinion, but I mean, that's their thoughts. I can't hate on them for that. I guess I can. I am going to hate on them for that. It's fucking stupid. But here we are. Now, we know Man-Spider is probably never coming to live action, but man, I would love it if we got a live-action horror movie with Man-Spider in it, dude. Oh my god, imagine the effects of the face. It would be just the scariest thing ever. If Marvel executives didn't want to do it for Far From Home, we'll never get it in a full-fledged movie. But man, can Brother Dunk dream? Just let Brother Dunk dream, man. The last show I know Man-Spider was actually supposed to appear in, though, was What If. What If actually had an episode dedicated to Man-Spider. Apparently, this episode was deemed too scary and was canceled. God, they fumbled the fucking bag, bro. Imagine this. We'd get a Spider-Man, Man-Spider episode of What If. What If wasn't even the greatest thing, I'm not gonna lie. It has some pretty mid animation and some pretty mid storytelling. But Spider-Man getting his own fucking episode, I feel like this should have happened. Spider-Man's the biggest character at Marvel. If they had a chance to give him an episode, even if it wasn't Man-Spider, the fact that they didn't do it at all is just fucking egregious to me. That would have easily been the most watched episode. It's fucking Spider-Man. At least we do have this design for him. He shows up in the after credits of the first season, if I'm not mistaken. But, I mean, I wanted to see Man-Spider, not 8-armed Spider-Man in a mask. And then, to my knowledge, Man-Spider never shows up in any video games or in live action. However, on Halloween this year, Man-Spider will be playable costume for Spider-Man and Marvel Rivals. We don't have an in-game model yet, so I can't show you that, but I can show you the artwork for it. And man, does it look godlike. It looked so fucking amazing. On top of that, though, this is also the only default Spider-Man suit in the game currently. So, not only is it going to be horrifying, you're actually going to be able to play in an actual default Spider-Man suit if you buy this costume. So, I'm going to definitely get it. I love Man-Spider, so why not? I hope it's legendary, man, because if it's a legendary skin and he's doing like alternate voice lines, I'm going to review that shit fucking day one. That sounds so cool. Man-Spider is not that popular, guys. He's not very well known. He's not shown off a lot. Whether that be because Marvel executives are afraid to show him off because they're afraid of what it'll do to Spider-Man's rep. Whether that be because writers don't really care to use the storyline. They feel like there's better storylines to use. Whatever the reason may be, we don't see him that often. So I'm really glad I got to make this video, man. I think Man-Spider is one of my favorite things in Spider-Man's mythos, like I've talked about throughout this entire video. I just think it makes sense in the storyline of Spider-Man that this would happen to Peter Parker. He would become a giant man spider. I don't really understand why they just decided in the comics this wouldn't happen, but I can't fault them. You know, this was clearly somebody else's idea in the 90s show, and then it was like, this is a pretty fucking good idea. Maybe we could use this, which happens all the time in comics. So you can't really fault the writers before John Semper, who thought of this, not thought of it, but who really prophesized. I shouldn't say that either. John Semper, who thought of using it in an actual way that fits in Spider-Man's mythos, unlike Chris Claremont, who did use Man-Spider and did help create Man-Spider, but also in the same vein, it really just felt like it was like a story where Man-Spider appears in. It didn't feel like it was a part of Spider-Man's mythos. And that's just my opinion. You don't have to agree. But the one thing I do have to ask you on is, what did you like about this video? Did you like Man-Spider? I really want to know what you guys think. Because, like I said, I'm a big fan of Man-Spider. It's one of my favorite things about Spider-Man's mythos. It's scary. It's horror. It's still Spider-Man. He's still technically a protagonist while also not. Like, it's great. But that's just my opinion. I want to know what you guys think. So now's your chance. Comment down below and let me know what you know. Or let me know what you think, because I'd love to know what other people think of Man-Spider and if we all want to see Man-Spider more. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much all I got for you guys in this video today. So, have a good one, everybody. Stay frosty. Dunk out. Peace.